This is a quick overview of the automated systems I have put into place on my koi pond. This Orbit controller runs by battery and has water coming in on the top and potentially 4 different outputs that can be programmatically controlled to turn on for a certain period of time, every hour or every day. I have this set to go off every hour and run for 6 minutes to top off the water in my pond. My pond has 2 levels. The purpose of the top level is to create a waterfall, because water, when it falls into a lower surface, will create additional oxygen into the water. There are 2 areas that receive water pumped up from the very foot of the pond, which is down here all the way to the end. I have put a shelf onto this trough. It's basically a large animal feeding trough that has been repurposed for pond purposes. I put a shelf in there and have put in water plants, plants that can take water from the standing water, and they're doing very well, as you can see, and it takes all of the need to frequently water these kind of plants out of the picture. Never have to touch them. As you can see, we have water flowing in at a strong rate right now, and this is programmatically controlled by smart switches feeding electricity to the pumps, of which I have 2. In the area to the side of this water flowing in, there is a hose underneath the surface of the water that will periodically pump air below the surface of the water. It was a repurposed air bubbler from a hot tub that got killed by a falling tree, and I got for a good price. That unit sits underneath this window over here in a sealed box to protect it from the environment. Coming on down, incidentally, for koi pond purposes, the reason that I have not lost all my fish to great blue herons, which we have in profusion on this lake, is that this pond is over 5 feet deep on this end, and a heron can't really effectively fish in that kind of depth. So koi, being fairly smart, if they see a predator up on the surface, they're going to be on the bottom and he's not going to be able to get to them. Down here we have a trough that takes the water in, and in this trough there are 2 pumps, one on the left side, and that one feeds into a filter. It's basically a sand filter from a swimming pool, and that's what's coming out over there right now. On the right hand side there is a stronger pump. Well, it's probably stronger because it doesn't have the resistance going through a sand filter. That's over here. You can see that the flow is to the left hand pump. These are also individually controlled by smart switches, and this one runs straight up to the top, and because it has no resistance, it goes a lot stronger. So we're probably getting good oxygenation from these 2 pumps, but then we have the additional capability of the oxygenation through the air bubbler from the hot tub. This is the automated controller that I built for three electrical components in my koi pond. Power comes in from a wall plug and feeds to these smart switches and also to these contactors. The reason for these contactors is that I found that these smart switches would not last long if they were feeding power to a device drawing 8 to 9 amps on a 110 volt circuit. That's interesting. You can just see that one of the switches has energized automatically by timer control. What I found is that these smart switches would burn out after a period of time, and consequently the best way to operate this was to create a bank of GFIs that would be energized by the contactors under programmatic control of the three smart switches. The three devices that are being controlled are my air pump, my fast pump, which does not go through the sand filter outside, and then the filter pump. So these smart switches can operate in three different fashions. They can operate by voice control through my Amazon Alexa system, or incidentally they would also be compatible with the Google system. They can operate via a timer through an app that you download to your cell phone. These happen to be on an application called eWeLink, EWELINK. You can go in there and you can set up a cyclical schedule where you want this to happen every half an hour, every day, every whatever. It is completely flexible. And then you tell it how long you want it to be on when that particular point in time comes, and when you want it to turn off. So for instance, on my air pump, I have it scheduled to come on 20 minutes after the hour and 10 minutes before the hour. And I can tell it to work for 5 or 6 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever. The other thing that you can do, again through the Echo system, is you can say, Echo, turn on air, and it will turn on the air. And it does this by going through the smart switch, through your Wi-Fi, from the Echo, energizing the contactor. The purpose of the contactor, of course, is to allow larger flows of electricity without burning out this fairly modest switch. You can't even really use much more than a 14 gauge wire, if that. And then on to the GFI. The third mode of operation would be, I know there's 3 modes. You can do it through timer control, through the Amazon Alexa control, or you can actually manually push buttons through your app on the cell phone to make these things energize and turn them off by button control. So this would be a way, and the thing that I've been allowed to do with this is that I can have my koi pond always sequentially running programs that will drop water off my waterfall as previously mentioned, or pumping air under the surface of the water. And the main objective, of course, is that if you have a standing body of water with fish and you don't have this kind of circulation, the oxygen level will fall and your fish will die. Also, because these are electronic and timer controlled, I used to have the old Torx mechanical timers, and they were very prone to problems. With this, I can actually see whether these are energizing or not through my cell phone application. It's just been a great system. These three electronic control devices, in conjunction with the Orbit top-off water entry into the koi pond, where it can be programmed to come on for a certain amount of time each hour for X number of minutes, pushing city water in. That has been made the actual manual tending to the pond almost minimal. All I have to do basically is feed these fish and clear out that sand filter out there periodically. We just turned on from the, as you can see, the green light on the filter controller. It went from running several minutes on the fast pump and turned that off, then went in and turned this on. It's just been, I'm actually kind of proud of this because it's been working perfect. The other thing that I did not mention when I talked about the Orbit pond top-off valve is that if I have it set to put in 10 minutes worth of water on the hour, which I can do, if the pond gets filled up before that 10-minute elapses, I've taken a very simple step of putting in, I don't know if you can see it, you can probably see a little bit of a toilet fill valve. It's the gray pipe that's standing up above the rock just this way from the waterfall. When that fill valve is tripped, it stops the water flow, even though the valve up top says do it for 10 minutes. If the pond is full, it won't allow the water to pass. So that's a way of not wasting water by that programmatic control.